Hey there, and welcome to Crazy Pepper, the channel where drama sizzles and revenge burns hotter than ever. If you love jaw dropping twists, bold characters, and stories that keep you guessing till the end, you're in the right place. Subscribe and dive into gripping tales of betrayal, karma, and ultimate payback. Get ready for unforgettable moments and satisfying endings, only on Crazy Pepper. Hit that bell and let the drama begin. Everyone thinks I'm lucky. I just wish I'd bought a lottery ticket instead of a wedding ring. My name is Dave Parrish, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. 40 years old, co-owner of Parrish Electric, the biggest electrical contracting company in our corner of Michigan. Beautiful wife Beth, 2 daughters who still talk to me, and a house that looked like something out of a magazine. The American dream, right down to the white picket fence that I'd installed myself because, hey, I'm an electrician. We know how to fix things. Turns out, some things can't be fixed. They can only be destroyed. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Beth always did laundry on Tuesdays, and she was folding my work shirts with that look on her face, the one that said I was somehow personally responsible for every stain, every wrinkle, every imperfection in her perfectly ordered world. "Dave, we need to talk," she said, not looking up from the basket. I was sprawled on our leather couch, still in my work clothes, nursing a beer and watching Sports Center. After 12 hours of rewiring a factory downtown, all I wanted was silence and highlights. But 20 years of marriage had taught me that we need to talk was never optional. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" I asked, muting the TV. She finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd been seeing more and more lately: disappointment. Not the normal kind, the everyday frustration of married life. This was deeper, colder. "Your brother called today." John, of course. My older brother, the golden boy, the one who'd gotten the looks, the charm, and somehow half the family business despite doing a quarter of the work. John Parrish, who could sell ice to Eskimos and had never met a mirror he didn't like. What did Johnny want? I tried to keep the irritation out of my voice. "He's concerned about you, Dave, about your attitude at work. He says you've been difficult lately." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Difficult? Is that what he's calling it when I actually expect him to show up for client meetings? Beth set down the shirt she was folding and gave me that look, the one that made me feel like a child being scolded. "He's trying to help, Dave. John cares about the company, about our family." Our family. The way she said it made something twist in my gut. Like John was part of our family in a way that went beyond blood. "John cares about John," I said. "Always has. That's not fair, and you know it." Beth's voice had that edge to it now, the one that meant I was about to lose this argument whether I was right or not. "He works just as hard as you do." "Does he? Because last week when the Henderson project was falling apart, where was John?" "Oh, that's right, he was at the country club, networking, while I was knee-deep in conduit and concrete fixing his screw-ups." Beth turned back to the laundry, her movements sharp and angry. "Maybe if you spent less time complaining and more time actually working with your brother instead of against him, things would go smoother." I stared at her back, at the rigid line of her shoulders, and felt something shift inside me, something that had been building for months, maybe years. The constant criticism, the way she always took John's side, the way she looked at me like I was the problem in every equation. "When did you stop being on my team, Beth?" She didn't answer, just kept folding clothes with mechanical precision, like she could fold away all the problems in our marriage if she just got the creases straight enough. That night, I lay in bed listening to her breathe, and for the first time in 20 years, I felt like a stranger in my own life. Beth had turned away from me, curled up on her side of the bed like she was protecting herself from something. From me. I should have trusted that feeling. Should have paid attention to the way she'd started working out more, staying late at her book club, taking phone calls in the other room. Should have noticed how she lit up whenever John's name came up in conversation, or how she always seemed to know his schedule better than mine. But I was stupid, trusting. I believed in the life we'd built together, believed that 20 years of marriage meant something, that the woman who'd promised to love me for better or worse wouldn't bail at the first sign of worse. The next morning, I got to the office early. Parrish Electric occupied a converted warehouse on the industrial side of town, all exposed brick and steel beams, with offices built into what used to be the loading dock. It wasn't pretty, but it was ours. Dad had started the company in 1978, And when he died 5 years ago, he'd left it to John and me equally. Well, almost equally. Mom still held the controlling interest, but she'd been hands-off since Dad's funeral. I was reviewing the Henderson Project files when Mary, our office manager, knocked on my door. Mary was 60-something, had worked for Dad since the Reagan administration, and had the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Morning, Dave, you're in early." "Couldn't sleep, figured I'd get a jump on the day." She studied my face with the intensity of a detective examining evidence. "Everything okay at home?" Mary had never liked Beth. She'd never said so directly, but I could tell. It was in the way she got formal whenever Beth called, the way she always found excuses to be busy when Beth stopped by the office. "Just the usual marital bliss," I said, trying for a joke. Mary didn't smile. "Dave, can I give you some advice?" "Shoot. Keep your eyes open. That's all. Just keep your eyes open." Before I could ask what she meant, John breezed through the door like he owned the place, which technically he did. Half of it, anyway. "Morning, little brother, Mary." He flashed that $1,000,000 smile that had been getting him out of trouble since we were kids. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" John looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine ad for successful businessmen. Perfectly styled hair, expensive suit, shoes that probably cost more than most people's car payments. At 43, he was still the kind of guy women noticed and men envied. Everything came easy to John. Success, money, attention. "What brings you to the office before noon?" I asked. His smile flickered for just a second. "Funny, I wanted to talk to you about the Henderson Project. I heard there were some issues." "Nothing I can't handle." "I'm sure, but maybe it's time we brought in some fresh perspective. I know a guy—" "No." I stood up and John took a step back. I wasn't as tall as my brother, wasn't as pretty, but I was broader, stronger. Years of physical work had built muscle where John had only charm. "I've got it handled, John. That's what I do. I handle things." "Easy, Dave. I'm just trying to help." "Are you? Or are you trying to swoop in and take credit when I get it fixed?" John's face hardened. The charming mask slipped, and for a moment, I saw something cold underneath. "You know what your problem is, Dave? You're paranoid. Not everything is a conspiracy against you. And you're lazy," I shot back. "Not everything is going to fall into your lap just because you smile pretty." Mary cleared her throat. "Maybe you boys should take this conversation somewhere private." But John was already heading for the door. "We'll talk later, Dave, when you're in a better mood." After he left, Mary shook her head. "That boy's been trouble since he was in diapers." "He's my brother, Mary. That doesn't make him your friend." The rest of the day dragged. I threw myself into work, losing myself in the familiar rhythm of problem-solving and physical labor. By 6 o'clock, I was exhausted but satisfied. The Henderson Project was back on track, no thanks to John's help. I expected to find Beth in the kitchen when I got home, preparing dinner like she had for the past 20 years. Instead, I found a note on the counter. "Gone to book club. Leftovers in the fridge. Don't wait up." Book club, right. Beth had joined a book club 6 months ago, and suddenly she was reading more than a literature professor. Mystery novels, romance, self-help books about finding yourself and reclaiming your power. I should have paid more attention to the titles. My daughters, Bayu and Bree, were in their rooms doing homework. 15 and 13, they were at that age where parents became embarrassing accessories to their real lives. But they still talked to me, still laughed at my jokes sometimes. They were the best thing Beth and I had ever created together. I heated up leftover casserole and ate alone, watching the news and trying not to think about Mary's warning. Keep your eyes open. What was I supposed to be looking for? Around 10 o'clock, I decided to drive to the bookstore where Beth's club met, just to see if she needed a ride home, I told myself. Just being a good husband. The parking lot was empty except for employee cars. The store had been closed for hours. I sat in my truck for a long time, engine running, heat blasting against the October chill. There were a dozen innocent explanations. Maybe they'd moved the meeting. Maybe they'd gone out for coffee afterward. Maybe I'd gotten the location wrong. But deep down in the place where instinct lives, I knew better. My wife was lying to me. The question was why? I was about to drive home when I saw a familiar car turn into the parking lot of the hotel across the street. Beth's white SUV, the one with the proud soccer mom sticker on the back window. She parked near the side entrance, away from the main lights. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Maybe she was meeting a friend. Maybe someone in the book club was going through a crisis and needed privacy to talk. Maybe the passenger door opened and John got out. My brother, my wife, a hotel room. I sat there for 10 minutes, watching the windows, waiting for them to come back out. They didn't. Finally, I drove home, my mind spinning with implications I wasn't ready to accept. But Mary was right. I needed to keep my eyes open, because the perfect life I thought I'd built was about to explode, and I was the only one who didn't see the fuse burning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Beth's SUV in that hotel parking lot, saw John getting out like he belonged there. By morning, I'd convinced myself I was paranoid, jumping to conclusions. There had to be an explanation. Beth was already up when I stumbled downstairs, dressed in her workout clothes and making coffee with the kind of energy that comes from a good night's sleep. She looked radiant, actually, happier than I'd seen her in months. "Morning, honey," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "How did you sleep?" "Like a rock," I lied. "How was book club?" "Oh, same as always. We're reading this fascinating novel about a woman who discovers her husband's been lying to her for years." She smiled as she said it, and I felt ice form in my stomach. "Sounds riveting. What's it called?" For just a second, she hesitated. The Silent Wife. You wouldn't like it." I made a mental note to look up that title later. "Probably not. I prefer stories where people are honest with each other." Beth's hand froze halfway to her coffee mug. "Honesty is overrated sometimes, Dave. People tell lies to protect the ones they love, or to protect themselves." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? Before I could identify it, she turned away. "I'm meeting Sarah for lunch today," she said. "Girl time." Sarah was Beth's best friend since college, married to a lawyer, lived in the expensive part of town. I'd never liked her much. She had a way of looking at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. "Have fun," I said. But as soon as Beth left for her workout, I called Sarah's house. Her husband answered. "Hey, Tom, it's Dave Parrish. Is Sarah around?" "Sarah? She's in Chicago until Thursday, visiting her sister. Has been all week." Another lie. They were adding up fast. At the office, I found myself studying John with new eyes. He was late, as usual, rolling in around 10 with his hair still damp from the shower, and that satisfied look men get after a good night. He was whistling. "You're in a good mood," I observed. "Life is good, little brother. Life is very good." He clapped me on the shoulder, and I had to resist the urge to break his fingers. "How's Beth doing? She looked a little tired last time I saw her." "When was that?" "Oh, around, small town and all." But we didn't live in a small town. We lived in a city of 200,000 people. You didn't just run into people around unless you were looking for them. I spent the morning making phone calls, checking on projects, doing the actual work of running a business, while John held court in the break room, charming the secretaries and telling stories about his weekend golf game. Around noon, I told Mary I was going out for lunch. Instead, I drove to the hotel. The desk clerk was a kid, maybe 22, with the kind of eager-to-please attitude that meant he was new. I flashed my business card and put on my most official voice. "I'm investigating some fraudulent credit card charges for one of my employees. I need to verify if someone checked in here last night under the name Parrish." The kid's eyes lit up. He loved being part of an investigation. "Let me check our system." My heart was pounding as he typed. Part of me wanted him to find nothing, to prove I was wrong, paranoid, jumping at shadows. "Yeah, here it is. John Parrish checked in around 9:30 last night. Checked out this morning around 7. Room 207. The ice in my stomach spread to my chest. Was he alone? The kid looked uncomfortable. "Well, I'm not supposed to say, but there was a woman with him. Pretty blonde. They seemed close." I thanked him and walked out on unsteady legs. 20 years of marriage. 20 years of building a life together, raising children, sharing dreams and fears and the mundane details of everyday existence. And she was throwing it away for my brother. The worst part? I wasn't even surprised. Deep down, I'd been expecting this. Beth had been pulling away for months, finding fault with everything I did, comparing me unfavorably to John at every opportunity. I'd thought it was just marriage fatigue, the kind of rough patch every couple goes through. I was wrong. It was preparation. She was building a case against me, justifying what she was already doing. Back at the office, I found Joanne, my assistant, organizing files in the conference room. Joanne was 35, divorced, sharp as a tack, and completely loyal.
She'd been with the company for 8 years and knew where all the bodies were buried. Joe, I need a favor. She looked up from the filing cabinet. Shoot, I need you to keep track of John's schedule for me, quietly. Where he goes, when he leaves, who he meets with. Joanne studied my face. This about the Henderson project? Something like that. She nodded slowly. Consider it done. And Dave, whatever's going on, I'm on your team. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done in 20 years of marriage. I hired a private investigator. His name was Mike Torres, a former cop who'd gone private after a back injury forced him off the force. His office was above a bail bondsman in the sketchy part of downtown, but his references were solid, and he had the kind of weathered face that said he'd seen everything twice. Cheating spouse? He asked after I'd explained what I needed. I hope not, but I need to know for sure. It's going to cost you. Surveillance? Photos, documentation? You looking at divorce? The word hit me like a punch to the gut. Divorce. The destruction of everything I'd built, everything I'd worked for. The end of my family as I knew it. Maybe. I need evidence first. Torres nodded. Always do. Most people don't want to believe what they already know. How long you want me on this? As long as it takes. I wrote him a check for $5,000, money I could afford, but that would hurt. Everything was about to hurt. That evening, I came home to find Beth cooking dinner. Actually cooking, not heating up leftovers or ordering pizza. She'd made my favorite, pot roast with potatoes and carrots, the kind of meal she used to make when we were newlyweds and still trying to impress each other. What's the occasion? I asked. Can a wife cook for her husband without an ulterior motive? But she was smiling when she said it, and for a moment, I almost believed we could fix this. Almost believed the hotel room had been a mistake, a moment of weakness that could be forgiven and forgotten. Then John called. Beth's whole demeanor changed when she heard his voice. She straightened, touched her hair, smiled in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. Oh, hi, John. Yes, he's right here. She handed me the phone, but I could see the reluctance in her eyes. Dave, we need to talk about the Morrison contract, John said. Can you meet me at Murphy's in an hour? Murphy's was a bar downtown, the kind of place contractors went to complain about clients and drink away the stress of the day. It was also public, neutral territory. Sure, I said. See you there. Beth was watching me intently. Everything okay? Business stuff. I'll be back in a couple hours. She nodded, but I caught her checking her phone as I grabbed my keys. Murphy's was crowded, filled with smoke and the sound of ESPN and working-class frustration. I found John at a corner booth, nursing a whiskey and looking uncharacteristically serious. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down. What's so urgent it couldn't wait until tomorrow? John stared into his drink for a long moment. Dave, I think we need to discuss the future of the company. What about it? I've been thinking, maybe it's time for some changes, new leadership, fresh ideas. I signaled the bartender for a beer. What kind of changes? Well, Mom's getting older. She might want to step back, sell her shares, and with the way the industry's changing, we need someone who can adapt, who can bring in new clients. Someone like you? I didn't say that. But he didn't deny it either. I studied my brother's face, looking for tells, for signs of deception. John had always been a good liar, but I'd known him for 40 years. I could usually spot his BS. This wouldn't have anything to do with Beth, would it? John's glass stopped halfway to his lips. What's that supposed to mean? You tell me. You two seem pretty close lately. Beth's my sister-in-law, Dave. Of course we're close. How close? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. John set down his drink and leaned back, and I saw something carnivory flicker in his eyes. You're paranoid, little brother. It's not attractive. And you're a liar. It never has been. John smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Careful, Dave. You're starting to sound unstable. That's not the kind of image we want for the company. Is that a threat? It's advice, from someone who cares about you. I finished my beer and stood up. Thanks for the concern, but I can take care of myself. Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're losing control. Your temper, your judgment, your family. The last word was a knife between my ribs. John knew. He knew I suspected, and he was taunting me with it. See you tomorrow, John. Yeah, see you tomorrow. I walked out of Murphy's feeling like I'd just declared war. Maybe I had. Maybe it was long overdue. When I got home, Beth was already in bed, pretending to read. She looked up when I entered the bedroom, and I saw guilt written all over her face. How was your meeting? Illuminating. I went through the motions of getting ready for bed, brushing my teeth, changing into pajamas, trying to act normal. But inside, I was planning. If John wanted a war, he'd get one. But it would be fought on my terms, with my rules. I was done being the good guy, done being the trusting husband and loyal brother, and they'd made their choice, and now I'd make mine. As I lay in the dark listening to Beth's fake sleep breathing, I thought about Torres, about surveillance photos and evidence, about divorce lawyers and custody battles and the destruction of everything I'd built. But mostly, I thought about revenge. Because if they thought Dave Parrish was going to roll over and play dead while they carved up his life, they were about to learn how wrong they could be. The game was on, and I intended to win. Torres called me 3 days later with news that confirmed my worst fears and gave me the ammunition I needed. Your wife and your brother are definitely having an affair, he said without preamble. I've got photos, video, hotel records going back 4 months. This isn't a recent thing, Mr. Parrish. This is a relationship. I was sitting in my truck outside a job site, and I had to grip the steering wheel to keep my hands from shaking. How bad is it? Bad. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Yesterday, I followed them to lunch at Romano's. That's the expensive Italian place on 5th Street. They were holding hands across the table, kissing like teenagers. Your brother had his hand on her leg the entire time. Romano's, where Beth and I had gone for our anniversary 3 years running. Where John knew we'd gone because Beth always posted photos on social media. He was marking his territory, claiming what had been ours. What else? They meet at the Marriott downtown every Tuesday and Thursday, same room, 237. Your brother pays cash, uses his real name. Either he's incredibly stupid or he wants to get caught. Or he was planning something. John had always been calculating, always thinking 3 moves ahead. Nothing he did was without purpose. I need copies of everything, I said. Already burned to DVD. But Mr. Parrish, if you're thinking about confronting them, I'd advise against it. Not until you've talked to a lawyer. This kind of evidence can be powerful in divorce proceedings, but only if you handle it right. A lawyer, divorce. The words felt surreal, like they belonged to someone else's life. But they were my words now, my reality. Thanks, Torres. Send me your bill. Will do. And, Mr. Parrish, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. But it was exactly what I'd expected to hear. The only surprise was how long it had been going on. 4 months. 4 months of lies, of Beth coming home to me after being with John, of family dinners where they sat across from each other and pretended to be nothing more than in-laws. I drove back to the office in a daze, Torres's words echoing in my head. They were holding hands, kissing like teenagers. Your brother had his hand on her leg. At Parrish Electric, I found chaos. The Henderson project had hit another snag. A city inspector had rejected our electrical plan, claiming it didn't meet new code requirements that had gone into effect the previous month. It was the kind of bureaucratic nightmare that could delay a project for weeks and cost us thousands in penalties. Where's John? I asked Mary. Haven't seen him since yesterday. Said he had meetings all day. Meetings, right. I knew exactly what kind of meetings John was having. I spent the afternoon dealing with the Henderson crisis, calling in favors, negotiating with city officials, doing the grunt work that kept our company running. By 6 o'clock, I'd gotten the project back on track, but I was exhausted and angry. John finally showed up as I was packing up to leave. Hey, little brother, heard we had some excitement today. He looked relaxed, satisfied. His hair was slightly mussed, and I caught a whiff of perfume. Beth's perfume, the expensive stuff she wore on special occasions. Nothing I couldn't handle, I said. I'm sure. You're good at cleaning up messes. He smiled as he said it, and I wanted to put my fist through his perfect teeth. Speaking of messes, how was your day? Productive meetings? Very productive. I'm working on some new opportunities for the company, big picture stuff. With who? John's smile flickered. Various people, you wouldn't know them. Try me. Dave, what's with the interrogation? I don't question your every move. Maybe you should. Maybe we should both be more transparent about our activities. We stared at each other across my desk, and I saw John's mask slip for just a moment. Underneath the charm and the smile was something cold and calculating. Something that had always been there, I realized. hidden beneath the golden boy exterior. Is there something you want to ask me, Dave? Yeah, are you screwing my wife? The question hung in the air like a live wire. John didn't answer immediately, and in that silence, I had my confirmation. That's a hell of an accusation, he finally said. It's not an accusation, it's a question. Are you screwing my wife? John stood up slowly, straightening his expensive suit jacket. I think you need help, Dave. Professional help. This paranoia, these wild accusations, it's not healthy. Answer the question. I don't have to answer anything. But I will say this, if your marriage is in trouble, maybe you should look in the mirror instead of pointing fingers. He walked out without another word, leaving me alone with my rage and the taste of betrayal in my mouth. That night, I sat in my home office watching Torres's surveillance video on my laptop. There was Beth, my wife of 20 years, walking into the Marriott with my brother, laughing at something he said, looking at him the way she used to look at me. There was John opening the car door for her, his hand on the small of her back as they walked into the hotel. The casual closeness of it was worse than if I'd caught them in bed. This wasn't just sex. This was a relationship. I fast-forwarded through hours of footage, watching them come and go, seeing the pattern emerge. Tuesdays and Thursdays, like clockwork. Sometimes they'd grab lunch first. Sometimes they'd go shopping together. They looked like a couple. They looked happy. The worst part was seeing Beth smile. Really smile, the way she had when we were young and everything was possible. She hadn't smiled at me like that in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Beth. Working late at the office, don't wait up. It was Thursday. I knew exactly where she was working late. I closed the laptop and poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon. Then I sat in my chair and planned their destruction. Because if Beth and John thought they could destroy my life without consequences, they were about to learn otherwise. I'd built Parish Electric from nothing, turned it into a multi-million-dollar business through hard work and determination. I'd been a faithful husband and father, a loyal brother and son, and this was my reward: betrayal, lies, the slow dismantling of everything I'd worked for. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated me. They thought I was stupid, blind, easy to manipulate. They thought I'd roll over and accept whatever scraps they threw me. They were wrong. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized but never used. Kellerman and Associates, a voice answered. I need to speak with James Kellerman. Tell him Dave Parrish is calling about a divorce. James Kellerman was a shark in a $1,000 suit, the kind of divorce lawyer other lawyers warned their clients about. His office occupied the top floor of the tallest building downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city like a hunter surveying its territory. Mr. Parrish, he said, shaking my hand with the grip of a man who crushed opponents for a living. I've heard of you. Parish Electric, impressive operation. Thank you. Now, what can I do for you? I handed him Torres's DVD and a folder containing hotel receipts, phone records, and a timeline I'd constructed of Beth and John's affair. Kellerman reviewed everything with the detached professionalism of a surgeon examining a tumor. This is very thorough, he said finally. Your wife and brother-in-law have been careless. In Michigan, infidelity is still grounds for divorce, and this level of documentation will be devastating in court. What are my options? Several. We can file for divorce immediately, seek full custody of your daughters, and go after a significant portion of marital assets. With evidence this strong, your wife will be in a very weak negotiating position. What about the business? Kellerman smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. That's where things get interesting. Parish Electric is a family business, correct? You and your brother are equal partners, with your mother holding controlling interest? That's right. Then your brother has just handed you a very powerful weapon. Corporate law frowns on partners who engage in conduct detrimental to the business. An affair with a co-owner's wife could be grounds for forced buyout, especially if we can demonstrate it's affected company operations. I thought about the Henderson Project, about John's increasing absences, about all the times I'd covered for him while he was off screwing my wife. It has affected operations. Document everything, every missed meeting, every project delay, every instance where you've had to compensate for his absence. We're going to destroy him professionally and personally. How long will this take? Depends on how hard they want to fight. But Mr. Parrish, I should warn you, this is going to get ugly. Divorce always does, but when family businesses and infidelity are involved, it becomes nuclear warfare. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Beth's smile in Torres's video, about John's smug confidence, about 20 years of marriage reduced to hotel receipts and surveillance footage. I'm ready for war. Kellerman nodded approvingly. Then let's begin. The first shot was fired 3 days later. Kellerman had the divorce papers served to Beth at her yoga class, in front of all her friends. It was a calculated humiliation designed to shatter her carefully constructed image as the perfect wife and mother. She came home that evening like a hurricane, clutching the papers and shaking with rage. "How dare you!" she screamed, throwing the documents at my head. "How dare you embarrass me like that?" I was sitting in my recliner watching the news, and I didn't even flinch when the papers hit me. Embarrass you? That's rich coming from someone who's been screwing my brother for 4 months. Beth's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Room 237 at the Marriott. Tuesdays and Thursdays? Romano's restaurant. Should I go on? She sank into the couch like a deflated balloon. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Dave, I can explain. Don't. Just don't. I've seen the photos, Beth. I know everything. She started crying then, the kind of desperate tears that come when someone realizes their world is collapsing. But I felt nothing. The man who would have comforted her, who would have tried to save their marriage, had died the moment I saw that surveillance footage. It wasn't supposed to happen, she sobbed. It just did. John was there when you were always working and always stressed about the business. He listened to me, made me feel special. Special enough to betray 20 years of marriage. You don't understand. You're never here, Dave. Even when you're here, you're not really here. You care more about that damn company than you do about me. So you decided to screw my brother. That makes perfect sense. Beth's tears stopped, replaced by anger. Yes, I did, and you know what? I'm not sorry. John makes me happy in a way you never could. Then you'll be thrilled to know he's about to be unemployed. What do you mean? I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a nice smile. I mean, your boyfriend is about to lose his share of Parish Electric. Infidelity with a partner's spouse is grounds for forced buyout. Kellerman is filing the paperwork tomorrow. Beth's face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, realization, fear. You can't do that. Watch me. She stood up, pacing like a caged animal. Dave, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, try to fix things. Fix things? Beth, you've been lying to me for months. You've been in my bed after being in his. You've sat at family dinners and looked me in the eye while planning my destruction. There's nothing left to fix. What about the girls? What about Bayou and Bree? This will destroy them. That hit me where it hurt. My daughters were the innocent sufferers in all this, and the thought of putting them through a custody battle made me sick. But Beth and John should have thought about that before they decided to blow up our family. The girls will be fine. They'll live with me. Like hell they will. Read the papers, Beth. I'm seeking full custody. And with your infidelity documented, I'll get it. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the man you created. The man you turned me into when you decided to betray everything we built together. Beth left that night, presumably to run to John. I didn't care. I had work to do. The next morning, I arrived at the office early and called an emergency board meeting. Parish Electric's board consisted of me, John, Mom, and our lawyer, Jerry Walsh. It was time to play my ace. John showed up looking haggard, like he hadn't slept. Good. I hoped he was suffering. What's this about, Dave? Mom asked. She was 72, tough as nails, and had built the company alongside Dad from nothing. She didn't tolerate weakness or stupidity. It's about John's conduct and its impact on company operations, I said, distributing copies of a report I'd prepared. For the past 4 months, John has been absent from crucial meetings, missed important deadlines, and failed to fulfill his responsibilities as a partner. John's face was red with anger. That's BS, and you know it. Is it? The Henderson project nearly failed because you weren't there to handle the client relationship. The Morrison contract was delayed because you missed 3 consecutive meetings. Should I go on? You're being ridiculous, Dave. I've been working on new business development. What kind of development? I asked innocently. John opened his mouth, then closed it. He couldn't very well admit he'd been developing a relationship with my wife. Mom was studying the report with the intensity of an accountant reviewing tax returns. These are serious allegations, David. Do you have documentation? I handed her a second folder containing copies of missed appointments, client complaints, and project delays. Everything's documented, Mom. John's personal activities have been detrimental to company operations. What personal activities? Jerry asked. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. John has been having an affair with my wife. For 4 months, he's been prioritizing his relationship with Beth over his responsibilities to this company. The room went dead silent. Mom's face was stone, but I could see the fury building behind her eyes. She'd built Parish Electric on the foundation of family values and hard work. Infidelity within the family was the ultimate betrayal of everything she stood for. Is this true, John? She asked quietly. John looked trapped, desperate. Mom, it's not what you think. Is it true? Yes, but get out. Mom, please, let me explain. Get out of my building. Get out of my company. Get out of my family. John's face crumpled. You can't do this. I own half the company. Mom stood up, all 5 feet 2 inches of her radiating fury. Not anymore. Jerry, draw up the buyout papers. John is no longer a partner in Parish Electric. You can't just kick me out. Watch me, Mom said, echoing my words from the night before. You want to act like a dog in heat? You can find somewhere else to do it. This company was built on honor and hard work, not betrayal and lies. John looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, Dave. Yes, it is. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Mom sat back down, suddenly looking every one of her 72 years. I'm sorry, David. I'm sorry this happened to you, and I'm sorry about John. I raised him better than this. It's not your fault, Mom, isn't it? Maybe I spoiled him too much, made things too easy. Your father always said John needed to learn the hard way, but I protected him. She looked at me with sad eyes. I won't make that mistake again. Jerry cleared his throat. Dave, this gives you controlling interest in the company. John's shares revert to you as the remaining partner. Controlling interest. In one morning, I'd gone from equal partner to sole owner of Parish Electric. It should have felt like victory, but all I felt was empty. There's one more thing, I said. I'm filing for divorce. This is going to get messy, and I want to make sure the company is protected. Mom nodded grimly. Do what you have to do, son. Family is family, but business is business. As the meeting broke up, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. I'd won the first battle, but the war was far from over. Beth and John would regroup, find new weapons to use against me. But I was ready for them. Because the old Dave Parrish, the trusting husband and loyal brother, was gone. In his place was someone harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. Someone who played to win. The counterattack came faster than I expected. 3 days after John's expulsion from the company, I arrived at the office to find chaos. Half our crew had called in sick, 2 major clients had canceled contracts, and our insurance company was threatening to drop our coverage pending an investigation into irregularities in company management. Mary met me at the door with a grim expression. It's bad, Dave. Really bad. How bad? John's been busy. He's been calling clients, spreading rumors about your mental state, suggesting the company is unstable. He's also been talking to our subcontractors, hinting that they might not get paid if they keep working with us. I felt my jaw clench. That son of a witch. It gets worse. 3 of our best electricians just quit to join Henderson Electric. Guess who's backing Henderson's expansion? John. Bingo! He's using his severance money to fund a competing business. And Dave, he's hired Beth as his office manager. That hit me like a physical blow. Beth had never worked outside the home during our marriage, had always insisted she needed to be available for the girls. But apparently she was available for John in ways she'd never been for me. They're trying to destroy us, I said. They're trying to destroy you, Mary corrected. This isn't about business anymore. This is personal. She was right. John and Beth weren't just leaving. They were trying to burn down everything I'd built on their way out. They wanted to see me fail, to prove that I was nothing without them. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. I spent the morning on damage control, calling clients personally, reassuring them about the company's stability. Most were willing to listen. I'd built relationships with these people over 20 years, and that counted for something. But 3 contracts were lost, representing nearly $500,000 in revenue. Around noon, Joanne knocked on my office door. Dave, you need to see this. She handed me a printed email from the state licensing board. Someone had filed a complaint against Parish Electric, alleging safety violations and improper business practices. The complaint was anonymous, but I knew exactly who'd filed it. They're trying to get our license revoked, I said. Can they do that? If the allegations stick, yeah, we'd be out of business. I stared at the complaint, reading between the lines. John knew our operations inside and out, knew which projects might have minor code violations, which inspectors might be willing to cause trouble. He was using 20 years of inside knowledge to destroy me. What do we do? Joanne asked. We fight back. That afternoon, I made a series of phone calls that would have made Kellerman proud. I contacted every client John was courting, every subcontractor he was trying to steal, every supplier he needed to build his new business. I reminded them of contracts they had with Parish Electric, of exclusive dealing arrangements, of the legal consequences of breaking their agreements. By 5 o'clock, 3 of our lost electricians had called asking for their jobs back. 2 clients had reconsidered their cancellations. John's new business was already struggling before it had even officially launched. But the real blow came when I called Henderson Electric's primary investor. Tom, it's Dave Parrish. I heard you're backing a new electrical contractor. Dave, good to hear from you. Yeah, John Parrish approached me with an interesting proposition. Says he's got the experience and connections to compete with the big boys. Did he mention he was fired from Parish Electric for having an affair with my wife? Silence on the other end of the line. Tom, you still there? Jesus, Dave, I had no idea. John's a good salesman, but he's not trustworthy. Ask yourself, if he'll betray his own brother, what makes you think he won't betray you? The call ended with Tom promising to reconsider his investment strategy. Within 2 hours, John's funding had evaporated. I was feeling pretty good about myself when Beth called. You fool, she said without preamble. You destroyed John's business before it even started. I protected my business. There's a difference. He's trying to build something new, trying to start over. Can't you just let him go? Like you let our marriage go? Like he let 20 years of brotherhood go? Dave, please, this has to stop. You're hurting innocent people. Innocent? Beth, you and John declared war on me. You tried to steal my clients, my employees, my livelihood. What did you expect me to do? Roll over and die? I expected you to be better than this. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Better? I was better, Beth. I was faithful and loyal and trusting. And you know what it got me? A cheating wife and a backstabbing brother. So no, I'm not going to be better anymore. I'm going to be smarter. The girls are asking questions, Dave. They wanted to know why Mommy doesn't live at home anymore, why Uncle John doesn't come to dinner. What am I supposed to tell them? That stopped me cold. Beau and Bree were the innocent sufferers in all this, and the thought of them suffering because of their mother's choices made me sick. Tell them the truth. Tell them their mother chose another man over their father. I can't do that. Then figure out something else, but don't expect me to lie for you. Beth was quiet for a long moment. Dave, what if we could work something out? What if John and I moved away, started over somewhere else? Would you consider dropping the divorce? No. Just like that. No consideration, no discussion. Just like that. You made your choice, Beth. Now live with it. I hung up and immediately felt guilty. Maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe there was still a chance to salvage something from the wreckage of our marriage. Then I remembered the surveillance video. The way Beth had looked at John, the casual closeness of their betrayal. No. There was no going back. Too much damage had been done, too many lies told. The only way forward was through complete destruction of the old life and the building of something new. That evening, I picked up the girls for dinner. The custody arrangement was temporary. Supervised visits while the divorce proceedings continued. But it was better than nothing. Beau, my 15-year-old, was quieted during the drive to the restaurant. Bree, 13 and more emotional, cried when she got in the car. Daddy, why can't you and Mommy fix things? She said. I pulled over and turned to face my daughters. They deserved honesty, or as much of it as I could give them. Sometimes when people hurt each other badly enough, things can't be fixed, I said. Your mom and I, we've hurt each other in ways that can't be undone. But you love each other, Beau said. You're supposed to love each other forever. I did love your mother. I loved her more than anything in the world, except for you two. But love isn't always enough. Is it because of Uncle John? Beau asked quietly. I stared at my daughter, surprised by her perceptiveness. What makes you ask that? I saw them together, at the house, when you were at work. They were close. My heart broke for her. No child should have to witness their family's destruction, should have to carry the weight of adult secrets. Yes, I said finally. It's because of Uncle John. Bree started crying harder. I hate him. I hate him for making you and Mommy fight. Don't hate anyone, sweetheart. Hate will eat you up inside. Your mom and Uncle John made choices, and now we all have to live with the consequences, but that doesn't mean you have to hate them. Do you hate them? Bew asked. I considered the question. Did I hate Beth and John, or was it something deeper, more complex? Betrayal, disappointment, rage, all mixed together into something that felt like hate, but might have been something else entirely. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm too angry right now to know what I really feel. We went to dinner at a family restaurant, the kind of place where kids could be loud and parents could pretend everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. We were a broken family trying to maintain the illusion of wholeness, and it showed in every forced smile, every awkward silence. When I dropped the girls off at Beth's temporary apartment, she was waiting on the front steps. She looked tired, older than her 39 years. The stress of the divorce was taking its toll on all of us. How were they? She asked. Confused, hurt, angry. Beth nodded sadly. They're in counseling. Dr. Morrison says it's normal for children to blame themselves when their parents divorce. They don't blame themselves. They blame me. Dave, it's okay, Beth. I'd rather they blame me than know the whole truth. She looked at me with something that might have been gratitude. Thank you. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for them. As I drove home to my empty house, I thought about the war I was fighting. I was winning. John's business was destroyed. Beth was isolated from her social circle, and I had control of Parish Electric. But victory felt hollow when it came at the cost of my daughter's happiness. Maybe it was time to consider a different strategy. Maybe it was time to end this before it destroyed what was left of our family. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but this is far from over. We're going to destroy you, Dave. Count on it. I stared at the message, feeling the familiar rage build in my chest. They weren't done. Even after everything, the lost business, the public humiliation, the divorce proceedings, they still wanted to hurt me. Fine. If they wanted to escalate this war, I was ready. But the next phase wouldn't be about business or money or even custody. The next phase would be about complete and total destruction, and I was going to enjoy every minute of it. The anonymous threats continued for a week. Text messages, emails, even a note left on my windshield at the grocery store. Each one promised revenge, destruction, pain. They were trying to intimidate me, to make me paranoid and afraid. They succeeded in making me paranoid. But instead of fear, I felt anticipation, because paranoid people take precautions, and precautions can become weapons. I installed security cameras around my house and office. I hired a bodyguard, a former Marine named Jake, who looked like he could bench press a truck. I documented every threat, every suspicious phone call, every sign that Beth and John were escalating their campaign, and I waited. The attack came on a Thursday night. I was working late at the office, reviewing bids for a major hospital project, when the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Jake appeared in my doorway, hand inside his jacket. Boss, we've got movement outside, 3 vehicles, at least 6 people. Call the police. Already did, but they're 15 minutes out. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the .38 revolver I'd bought after the threats started. I wasn't a violent man by nature, but I wasn't going to be a sufferer either. How do you want to play this? Jake asked. Carefully. They want to scare me, not eliminate me. If they wanted me dead, they would have tried already. The front door exploded inward with a crash that echoed through the building. I heard voices, footsteps, the sound of equipment being smashed. They were trashing the place, destroying everything I'd built. Perish! John's voice echoed through the building. Come out and face me, you coward! He was drunk. I could hear it in his voice. The slurred words and exaggerated bravado of a man who'd been drinking his courage from a bottle. Drunk people do stupid things, make mistakes that sober people avoid. Stay here, I told Jake, or record everything. Boss, that's not smart. Trust me. I walked out of my office with my hands visible, the tool tucked into my waistband, but hidden by my jacket. John was standing in the reception area, surrounded by 5 other men I didn't recognize. They'd destroyed Mary's desk, smashed the computers, spray-painted obscenities on the walls. There he is, John said, swaying slightly. The great Dave Parrish, destroyer of families. Hello, John. You're looking well. Prison orange will suit you. Prison? I'm not going to prison, little brother. You are. See, we've got witnesses who will testify that you've been embezzling from the company, stealing from clients, cooking the books. I almost laughed. Witnesses you paid, you mean? Money talks, Dave. And I've got enough to make it sing opera. Where's Beth? Safe, somewhere you'll never find her. But I could smell her perfume, the same expensive scent I'd been smelling for 20 years. She was here, hiding somewhere, watching her lover try to destroy her husband. You know what your problem is, John? I said, moving closer. You always underestimated me. Always thought I was the stupid brother, the one who did the real work while you got the glory. Because it's true. You're nothing without me, Dave. Nothing without the Parrish name. Maybe, but I'm something you'll never be. What's that? Smart. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It was displaying a live feed from the security cameras, streaming directly to a private server. Every word, every action, every crime he'd committed in the last 10 minutes was being recorded in high definition. John's face went white. You son of a witch. Breaking and entering. Destruction of property. Criminal threatening. Conspiracy. Your new friends here are probably looking at 5 to 10 years each. You're looking at more, since this is your second offense. Second offense? The infidelity complaint I filed included evidence of you using company resources for personal gain, technically embezzlement. The DA was willing to overlook it as part of the divorce settlement, but this changes things. John lunged at me, but he was drunk and off balance. I stepped aside and let him crash into the wall. His friends started to move, but Jake appeared behind them with his tool drawn. Everybody freeze! Police are 2 minutes out! The sound of sirens was already audible in the distance. John's hired muscle looked at each other nervously, realizing they'd been set up. This isn't over, John snarled from the floor. Yes, it is. Beth emerged from the back office, looking like she'd been crying. She stared at the destruction, at John bleeding from his collision with the wall, at the tools and the burns and the complete collapse of whatever plan they'd hatched. Dave, please, she said, don't do this. Think about the girls. I am thinking about them. I'm thinking about what kind of father they need, what kind of example I should set. Should I teach them that betrayal has no consequences? That you can destroy someone's life and walk away unpunished? We never meant for it to go this far. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just didn't expect me to fight back. The police arrived with their usual efficiency, sorting out the chaos with practiced ease. John and his friends were arrested, charged with multiple felonies. Beth was questioned but not charged. She hadn't participated in the break-in, had just been an observer. As they led John away in handcuffs, he looked back at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, he said again. Yeah, it is. But he was wrong and I was wrong. It wasn't over. Not yet. The real ending came 3 days later in the conference room at Kellerman's office. Beth sat across from me, flanked by her lawyer, a nervous young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Kellerman had his game face on, the expression of a hunter who'd cornered his prey. Let's review the terms, Kellerman said. Full custody of both children to Mr. Parrish. Mrs. Parrish receives supervised visitation rights to be reviewed annually. No alimony given the infidelity conviction. Mrs. Parrish retains her personal belongings and her car. Mr. Parrish keeps the house, the business, and all other marital assets. Beth's lawyer cleared his throat. My client would like to request. Your client is in no position to request anything. Kellerman cut him off. She committed infidelity with her brother-in-law, participated in a conspiracy to destroy her husband's business, and was present during the commission of multiple felonies. She's lucky she's not facing criminal charges herself. Beth was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, I felt the old sympathy, the instinct to comfort her that had been my default for 20 years. Then I remembered the hotel room, the lies, the way she'd looked at John. I'll sign, she said quietly. But Beth, her lawyer started. I'll sign, I want to say something to Dave first. Kellerman nodded. 5 minutes. The lawyers left us alone in the conference room. Beth and I sat across from each other, 20 years of marriage reduced to a stack of legal documents. I'm sorry, she said finally. For which part? The affair, the lies, trying to destroy my business, corrupting our daughter's view of marriage and family. For all of it. I know you don't believe me, but I never wanted it to end like this. How did you want it to end, Beth? With me quietly accepting that my wife preferred my brother? With me stepping aside so you two could live happily ever after? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to plan it out. 4 months of hotel rooms and lies isn't a mistake, Beth. It's a choice, a series of choices. She nodded, accepting the judgment. What happens now? Now you live with the consequences. You find a job, an apartment, a new life. You see the girls when the court says you can see them. You stay away from me and stay away from Parish Electric. And John? John's going to prison. 3 to 5 years if he's lucky. His lawyer thinks they can bargain it down to 2. But he'll be a convicted felon either way. No more electrical license, no more business opportunities. He'll be lucky to get a job changing oil at Jiffy Lube. Beth flinched. You destroyed him. He destroyed himself. I just made sure he paid for it. The lawyers returned, and Beth signed the papers with shaking hands. 20 years of marriage ended with the scratch of a pen, the final signature on the final document. As we left the building, Beth caught my arm. Dave, wait. I turned back to her. This woman I'd loved more than life itself. This stranger who'd betrayed everything we'd built together. The girls are going to ask about this someday, she said. About why we got divorced, why their family fell apart. What are you going to tell them? I considered the question. What would I tell Beau and Bree when they were old enough to understand? That their mother was an adulteress? That their uncle was a criminal? That love wasn't enough to overcome betrayal? I'll tell them that sometimes people make choices that can't be undone, I said finally, and that actions have consequences. That's all. That's enough. Beth nodded and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of people going about their normal lives. I watched her go, feeling nothing. No sadness, no anger, no regret. Just emptiness, where 20 years of love used to be. 3 months later, I was in my office when Mary knocked on the door. Dave, there's someone here to see you. Who is it? Your brother. I looked up from the contracts I was reviewing. Tell him to make an appointment. He says it's important. Says he has something you need to hear. I sighed and nodded. Send him in. John looked terrible. Prison had aged him, stripped away the polish and charm that had been his trademark. He was thinner, grayer, wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit properly. But his eyes still held that familiar arrogance, the belief that he could talk his way out of anything. Hello, Dave. John, you're out early. Good behavior, plea bargain. I'm on parole for the next 3 years. Congratulations. What do you want? John sat down without being invited, trying to project confidence he didn't possess. I want to make amends. Amends? I wronged you, Dave. I wronged our family. I want to make it right. I leaned back in my chair and studied my brother's face. How do you propose to do that? I've got information about Beth, about things she did that you don't know about. Such as, she's been stealing from you, Dave, for years. Skimming money from the household accounts, hiding assets, preparing for a divorce long before the affair started. I almost laughed. You think I care about money, John, after everything that's happened? It's not about the money, it's about the truth. She played us both, Dave, made us fight each other while she positioned herself to come out ahead. And you're telling me this out of the goodness of your heart? John's mask slipped for a moment, revealing the desperation underneath. I'm telling you because I need your help. I can't get work anywhere in the state. No one will hire me, won't even let me bid on jobs. I'm broke, Dave, living in a studio apartment, working part-time at a hardware store. And you want what? A job, money, forgiveness? I want a chance to earn back what I lost, a chance to prove I can be the brother you used to trust. I stared at John for a long moment, remembering the boy he'd been before ambition and jealousy corrupted him, remembering the brother who'd taught me to throw a curveball, who'd stood up to bullies when I was too small to fight back. That brother was gone, had been gone for years, maybe decades. In his place sat a broken man offering betrayal, wrapped in the language of redemption. Get out, I said quietly. Dave, please. Get out of my office. Get out of my building. Get out of my life. John's face crumpled. She's going to destroy you, Dave, just like she destroyed me. Beth doesn't love anyone but herself. Maybe, but that's my problem now, not yours. We're brothers, Dave. That has to count for something. We were brothers, past tense. You gave that up when you decided to screw my wife. John stood up slowly, defeat written in every line of his body. I'm sorry, Dave, for what it's worth. I'm truly sorry. It's worth nothing, John. Absolutely nothing. He walked out without another word, and I never saw him again. 6 months later, I was coaching Bree's soccer team when I got a call from Torres, the private investigator. Mr. Parrish, I thought you should know. Your ex-wife is engaged. I felt nothing. Good for her. To a lawyer from Chicago, guy named Peterson, rich, connected, politically ambitious. Why are you telling me this? Because she's been telling people that you misused her during the marriage. Physical misuse, emotional misuse, financial control. She's building a narrative for a custody challenge. That got my attention. Can she do that? She can try. With her new husband's money and connections, she might be able to make trouble. Thought you should know. I thanked Torres and hung up, feeling the familiar rage building in my chest. Beth wasn't done. Even after losing everything, even after being completely defeated, she was still trying to hurt me. But this time, she'd made a crucial mistake. She was threatening my daughters. I called Kellerman. James, it's Dave Parrish. I need you to do something for me. What's that? I need you to destroy someone, completely and utterly. No mercy, no compromise, no deals. Who? My ex-wife. She's planning to challenge for custody, and I want her buried so deep she'll never see daylight again. Kellerman chuckled. I thought you might call. I've been monitoring the situation, preparing for this possibility. What do you have? Everything. Her new fiancé has some interesting financial irregularities. Nothing criminal, but embarrassing enough to end his political career. And your ex-wife has been less than honest about her employment history, her financial situation, even her mental health records. Mental health records? She's been seeing a psychiatrist for 6 months. Depression, anxiety, some concerning notes about her fitness as a mother. I can have her parental rights terminated within 60 days. Do it. Dave, are you sure? This will end any possibility of reconciliation, any chance for your daughters to have a relationship with their mother. I thought about Bayou and Bree, about the stability they'd found in the past year, about the damage that another custody battle would inflict on their young lives. She made the choice when she decided to challenge me. End it, James. End it permanently. The final battle lasted 3 weeks. Kellerman moved with surgical precision, dismantling Beth's life piece by piece. Her fiancé broke off the engagement when his financial irregularities became public. Her lawyer withdrew from the case when her mental health records were subpoenaed. Her custody challenge collapsed before it even reached court. The last I heard, she'd moved to California, working as a receptionist at a dental office, living in a one-bedroom apartment, alone. John died 2 years later, heart attack at 45, brought on by stress and alcoholism. I didn't attend the funeral. Today, 5 years after it all began, I'm sitting in my office at Parrish Electric, reviewing plans for our biggest project ever, a $50 million hospital complex that will employ 200 people for the next 3 years. The company is thriving, stronger than it's ever been. My daughters are doing well. Bayou is in college, studying engineering, planning to join the family business. Bree is a senior in high school, captain of the soccer team, accepted to 3 universities. They're strong, independent young women who've learned that actions have consequences and that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if the revenge I took was proportional to the betrayal I suffered. Sometimes I think about the man I used to be, trusting, forgiving, willing to see the best in people. But then I remember the hotel room, the lies, the systematic destruction of 20 years of marriage and brotherhood, and I know that the old Dave Parrish would have been destroyed by what happened. The new Dave Parrish survived and thrived. I built a new life from the ashes of the old one, stronger and more resilient than before. I learned that some people can't be trusted, that some betrayals can't be forgiven, and that sometimes the only justice is the justice you create for yourself. Beth and John thought they could destroy me and walk away unpunished. They were wrong. They forgot one crucial thing. I'm an electrician. I know how to handle power, and I know how to deliver one last shock.